There's some kind of an additive in it. So, okay. So we did have enough money left over from the grant to take care of those expenses. And really what I need is a couple of good men, volunteers of course. Monday we're going to bail, and it takes really two men. Joel Agnes built this box, and it's a chute so that the cans or the bottles fly down into the baler. But you have to have two people on either side of this box to lift the board that allows the stuff to fly in. You know, the problem is we've got all the material in these huge boxes that are 4 by 4 by 4, and you know, even the forklift can lift it, but it doesn't tilt them. So Joe figured out this kind of a chute deal, but it needs two men on either side to lift the bar, so the stuff flies into the baler. So I guess I need. I mean, if any, we have volunteers for Monday. We're going to start at 8 a.m. But it would be great if I had a bunch of men that I could, you know, call when we know we're going to bail again. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. All right, Las Moras Restoration Project.
This from Mr. Chris Hale. Work on the bathrooms is essentially complete, only lacking installation of a urinal and some touch-ups. For the first time, they are now handicap accessible. There are motion-activated light and exhaust fans. The Brown and Root era barbecue pit is repaired with a sink added for convenience, and the building is painted in the official post-color scheme. We made some recommendations to the board for improving drainage to minimize flood damage at the swim park. We're awaiting bids for improving disability access and for an irrigation system in the high-traffic grass area. We're waiting for the next period of non-use of the pool to repair the ladders, to make a change to the pump system in order to open up the sidewalk on the far side of the pool. I want to give big kudos to Russell Lowe. He has been working unbelievably. The time he's put down there, his time. He's down there at 6:30 in the morning until it gets hot. He's done a phenomenal job with the bathrooms, in my opinion. And there's just a little bit left to do, and it's amazing what one person can do.
The Eclipse.
Recreation.
Oh, did I miss recreation? Oh, they're on hiatus.
Ad-Hoc.
I did that on purpose.
Okay. Ad-Hoc?
How did I miss all that? I don't know. Ad-Hoc. I think we have a report. Is anybody?
Elizabeth here.
Elizabeth. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Hodges, and I'm a member in good standing. And I was appointed, along with other members, to an ad hoc committee. And I just wanted to clarify to this group here that it was a limited time span between two board meetings. We were supposed to accomplish the task, and we did it. So, we are now disbanded. It is not a committee that's going to be ongoing. It was strictly to address this one issue. And the issue had come up because there had been alterations to common property years past and recently. And the board realized that there was no process tool in place to deal with that, where as homeowners, we're required, if we make alterations to our property, we go through the architectural committee. So that was the purpose of, that was our charge. And so on the ad hoc committee, I just wanted to give the names of the members again. It was a wonderful group to work with. We got it done very quickly with very little even negative discussion. It was just a wonderful thing to serve on. Myself, Chris Hale, Chip Riggins, Sandy Hagan, Sharon Gregork, Francis Bitter, and Memo was our liaison from the board. Did I leave somebody out? I didn't, did I? Get them all? I got Sharon, yeah. Okay, so I think you have a copy.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we decided as a group was it made sense, since when we go to the architectural committee, we have a form that we follow that's very clear and concise. We thought it would be better to have a process tool rather than just lines talking about you have to do this and you have to do that. We left it in an online form so that you could fill it out, but of course we understand that you guys can decide that you like it or don't like it, edit it, amend it, whatever you need to do, or put it in a paper form if that's what you prefer. And so we did put one thing on there that I think that this group might find interesting. We decided it was necessary to go to the dictionary and put the definition of maintain and the definition of alter. So, leave it to a linguist to tell us those definitions, and then there's not any conversation. Just look at your definition. So, I don't really know what the board would like of me, but I want to say thank you for being on this committee. It was near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate you being so open in your due diligence.
Thank you.
Thank you for this. This is awesome.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to you and the entire committee for taking the time to go through this, and we will look at it.
It's perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we could-
Solar eclipse.
Been a little distracted. So our next solar eclipse meeting will be Wednesday, the 26th at 6 p.m., I believe. So in about 2 weeks, we have been going over ideas. So now is when we're going to start making concrete decisions and plans. So if you want a role in any of the planning, we're always accepting ideas, but please come to this next meeting. So that is where we currently stand, because then we can start meeting with the four managers and everybody to make an overall plan for the entire process. So that's where the Eclipse Committee currently stands.
Where is the meeting?
Oh, here. We'll be in the boardroom. Questions?
Sorry. Yeah, I think a workshop is probably in order to
definitely.
work through all of that. I know there was some confusion about the committee, and then I don't know if maybe,
I wasn't going to mention the confusion over that, but we might as well.
yes.
At our last community council meeting, we were informed that the Eclipse Committee created by the board several months prior was not functioning. And we were asked if we would create a committee. And that was a vote of community council at our last meeting to create, the motion read to create the committee. So we did that. And so we're in a little bit of a confused state because we not only voted as a community to have community council have an Eclipse committee, but we also voted to provide startup money. So I would like to have that clarified, because on our books, we either have to do away with our motion and our committee, or have it function the way, what we had in mind was that it was very much like Fort Clark days.
Okay.
Same situation with board liaison, board members as members of the Eclipse Committee as they are in Fort Clark days. And since we need to recognize the 501(c) status, it's community council's responsibility to oversee.
Okay.
So what we would like to have, what I would like to see happen is that the community council decision stand.
Okay.
with total cooperation. I mean, I think it's just a
absolutely.
technicality.
Yes, and I don't want that to get in the way because.
I don't either.
Because you guys do, lion's share of.
And our
a lot of the
volunteer,
work.
the volunteers would probably cooperate either way. I can't talk for everybody, so. I just know that we did make, a motion was made by Francis Bitter and seconded, and those in attendance voted to create the committee,
Okay.
as we reported that last board meeting.
Right, and it didn't sink in when
Yeah.
you said it because we had still had we hadn't disbanded the previous.
And we didn't know that. We really didn't know that.
No, and yeah, it was just.
We had no way of
It
knowing.
was just a communication error, so.
So I don't know what the board wants to do, or what, do we want to wait? I
But
don't,
y'all, just to clarify, y'all run all the Fort Clark days,
yes, sir,
and you create your own committee in order to run Fort Clark days?
yes.
So the precedent's already been set that you can create a committee to run something.
Yes, and it's actually in it's part of community council's, I guess, our obligation. Part of it is to provide educational, historical, it all ties in with the Fort Clark days, part of the 5013C. And the Eclipse would fit into that, because what I understand is that the educational part is, just the committee is going to provide education to the community about the impact of the eclipse on each one of us. But they're also planning, I want to get in your report, but they're also going to have programs and speakers going on at the school. So all of that coordination, and we do have all kinds of volunteers that are used to the setup with Fort Clark Days. We just felt like it was a natural thing for us to do.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I
I think so too.
think from an
So
efficiency
just,
standpoint, if we start trying to create another committee, that then has to try to organize everything that y'all already have
It's
streamlined.
already, it's
It's-
pretty much in place, if
Yeah.
that's, it was just confusion. We didn't mean
Yes.
to create
Oh, no,
something that
yeah.
didn't need to be created. We were asked to do it. So, and we just felt like it was a natural thing.
No, and I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page, because I don't
Yeah.
want anything to,
So,
to hamper
What-
that. So,
do
I
we
mean,
need
as long as
another
the board is.
Tony, are you catching all this?
Actually, I can't hear exactly all of it. However, what I was about to comment about was, I've always been a little confused about the function of community council and the board. Community council, to me, is a vital participant in this. But what I believe the function should be is that the board allocates or assigns these responsibilities to community council, who then reports back to the board for final approval. What I'm a little concerned about, and what over the last several months, what I have become increasingly concerned about, is the notion that if community council or any other committee, for that matter, has been assigned a particular function, that they take it upon themselves to make all the decisions. And I think that is what has created the confusion for me. Now, far be it from me to discourage anybody who volunteers for these efforts, and we obviously need more of that and would encourage more of that. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm reading something into this that maybe has not been part of the discussion, but I just felt like, and felt inclined to mention something like that. We need community council, no doubt about it, just like we need all the rest of the committees. But there's got to be an understanding of the authoritative function of community council or any other committee for that matter. Now, did I read something into this discussion that was not being talked about?
Well, I think part of it, I think part of it is the last, with the Fort Clark days, there was some, issues going there. But that was more of a, disagreement between the board and the GM, and it wasn't a community council overstep. It was more of a, the board has the authority to grant community council with the advice of the GM, use of any of the facilities or how they plan their event. And that was where I think the issue is that you're concerned about. Community council does not, I don't want to speak for you, but does not think that they could just make a
Absolutely
plan
not.
and go with it regardless of the board and the association.
I think I'm relatively new to the position that I'm in now with community council, but I think that we need more communications, publication of what community council actually does. It's very well.
There's no doubt about it. There's always room for more communication.
Right, and it's very.
Clearly has been an issue.
And it's very well laid out in we have separate bylaws that's open to everybody that owns property on the fort is a member of community council. And last year, Memo, were you our liaison from the board to the community council?
I believe so.
So we always have a board member relating things back and forth. That's just standing
Yes.
operating procedure.
And I think I speak for this part, or I speaking for myself, I guess, that going forward, we'd like to see it more of a better relationship and more of a
Absolutely.
co-sponsor position when it comes to the big stuff, because we have the facilities and we have help for you, and there shouldn't be
Right.
this battle in order to put on these things that market the board, benefit the membership,
Absolutely.
generate revenue. We should be doing it together.
Well, I think community councils, I'm speaking for all of you, so if I'm speaking out of turn, say something. I think community council is, in a way, it's a place where things can be worked out and a plan presented to the board instead of just an idea. We're not talking about Fort Clark Days or the Eclipse right now.
Right.
But if someone in the community has an idea, they can bring it to community council and see if there's any kind of support for it before they just appear to the board and say, hey, let's do something without a plan. It's kind of a before it gets to the board kind of thing. But I see us as working.
I agree with that 100%. And I would hope that at some point, if we haven't already reached that level of understanding with each other, that we are not the enemy, and we don't believe community council is the enemy either.
Thank you. We don't either. I think there's been a time in the fairly recent past that was so. And I've even been asked, why do we have both? But there was a reason for creating community council. And we need to get back to that core reason and let everybody who buys property know what that is. I'm a prime example. The first community council meeting I went to, or first or second, someone handed me a piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, okay. And then they got to where they were voting on something. And I turned and I said, can I vote? I mean, you don't even know who I am. Did I join? And yes, when you have a deed to a piece of property here, you join community council. And we'd like to see, a lot of more involvement from members. So
I think at the ground level, that communication needs to be initiated, because I'm going to tell you right now that I had no idea what community council was until I really started concentrating on it. So that communication effort from the beginning of when someone acquires property in the fort is vital existence of community council. I mean, I can't think of a better way to communicate issues to the board than to have an organization like community council who talks outside of this setting that can then generate those either questions or issues that need to be addressed. I can't think of a better way to do that. So if we make a better effort at ensuring that our folks know, number one, what community council is and how it can serve them as a member of this homeowners association.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly. And I don't think it'll be hard to do. I think it just takes some.
A little bit of effort.
One thing that Community Council was talking about, and our meetings are public and our minutes are public, but it was just a discussion item about maybe forming a committee in Community Council to work on the new member packets.
That's
And
funny.
bring them up to date.
I
Let
just wrote
people
down-
know all this stuff.
Yeah, I just wrote down maybe we could put something in the
And-
welcome package.
And it needs to be there. And our intentions, our bylaws and everything are very well worded, and they're right out there for anybody to read. And they should be in everybody's closing packet when they finalize the sale. That would help.
Yeah, definitely.
Ms. Barber, in the meantime, I'm of the opinion that we've already disbanded the original committee of the Eclipse.
We
That
didn't-
was started.
not officially,
Well,
but-
it went away because they quit, so do we need to make a motion?
So does our motion just simply,
Just carry on.
Yeah,
Well, just carry on, just like it's for Clark
Christina,
days.
is that okay? I mean, we just carry on?
Carry on.
Just like it's for Clark days,
Okay,
with a different time.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now the reason I'm here. Community Council does not meet again until September the 9th. We are functioning now without a secretary because our secretary was required to resign. She was a homeowner, property owner, when she was elected to the job. She sold the property. And so now she's a renter and not able to serve on the board. It's Marcia Kaufman. I don't think you're here. Marcia Kaufman is a valued member of our community and of community council, but she now can't serve on the board. So on our September 9th meeting, we will be asking for nominations from the floor for anyone who would be willing to fulfill the remainder of her term, and that would be through January of 2025.
Okay. And we can,
And we'll
Get that out
publicize
there.
that. And what I would like to do is actually to send out, work with Julie and maybe send out maybe a series of dispatches about what community council does.
That would be Christina.
Actually, you now get to-
Okay, great.
Just now.
What we do and what we're working on, or especially this election, the issue of having to elect a secretary.
yes,
And
perfect.
I haven't had a chance to talk to Frances personally, but I was going to ask her to just assume the secretary/treasurer's duties for the few weeks. So she's already doing it. So, but we didn't want to make it an official appointment of the secretary. We'll just let it ride, if that's okay.
Oh, no, that's your, yeah.
Were there any questions about community council? Any other questions? Sandy? I should let you do that.
No, I just, you want me to?
Come on up. please.
Yeah. Can I move this?
No, just
You'll have to talk to the communications director.
If they consider that,
go to mine.
Because it's in
In the frame.
It's in the frame.
it's in the frame. it can
I
be-
just wanted to point out for Tony, because I can't pronounce his last name, Tony, that community council is not a board-appointed committee. It's its own 501c3, and it's its own entity. And of course, the board must give approval, like you said, for using any of our common property facilities. I just wanted to explain to him that it's the forum for our members to come forward when they have issues they want to discuss, maybe not before the board, for community council. But it's an important distinction, I think, that it's not a board-sanctioned committee, it's its own 501c3.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add one thing. You'll see a slight difference, even though Community Council has a board of directors, very much, we look just like this when you come to the meeting. However, you are all members as if you were all board members. Like here today, one of them has to make a motion and a second, and they're the ones who vote. In Community Council, any of you can make a motion. Anyone can second the motion, and you all vote. That's what makes it more accessible, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
How many members are active in community council? And is that dropping or going up?
It varies, and right now, last time we had very few, but it's also summer. We have fewer. When I first started coming, it looked just like this room right now. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
What was that question that was asked?
He asked how many people participated in community council on a regular basis of coming to the meetings.
Okay.
The last meeting was not as well attended. And actually, it's a compliment to the board. I did hear that the reason community council attendance might be slacking off is because the board was more open and receptive to questions from us.
So are we putting you out of a job?
No, because like Sandy said, we really do have separate duties and responsibilities, but always working together. You guys are all members of community council, so just like there's no dividing line. But that was said to me, was like, why do both? And other people have said, well, I'll just take my complaint to the board. And I'm going, if it's a complaint, maybe you should run it through community council and see if it's a valid complaint, or before you even get to the board. And why the board would want to be responsible totally for conducting Fort Clark Days or the Eclipse is beyond me.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Well, and so what you've just done is reiterated how important it is to communicate to the general membership what community council is. And I appreciate you for your explanation today.
Okay. All right, so email votes. Our first email vote, the board of directors voted to appoint Tony as secretary. So we did that through email. Our second email vote was to, it was an approval to purchase a refurbished washing machine for up to $5,700. And that is still in process.
Pending, yes.
It's pending. We may be able to do something else for less. So that's where that's at. Discussion action items. The first one is consider canceling trapping program.
Is Meg gonna say anything?
Oh, that's not on, but it's in our packet. Christina, is that not in?
Oh, I was going to say that. Sorry. I was going to say that during the board, our little board report. Christina Bitters has been hired as the Director of Communications. So she will also be doing all of the dispatches and we're gonna give Facebook, everything like that. We're giving Julie a break. The marketing website, and all of that thing. So if you have an event or anything else, you can reach out to Christina. And do you have a email yet?
Communications@fortclark.com.
Say again?
Communications with an S at fortclark.com.
I guess you may want to get a dispatch out Monday with the
Yes,
email address.
I've already got it drafted. And updating the welcome package is on my list of things, so. All communications donate.
There you go. All right, so now, our discussion action item is consider canceling the trapping program. Do you want to
Yeah, okay.
speak on that?
Matt's not gonna say anything.
Morning. What?
No,
So,
Matt was gonna say anything.
Not for this
Oh,
part.
Okay.
no. Okay, we just want to kind of update. We had a managers meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were just trying to get a feel for the managers to be able to communicate with us and tell us of any problems, and just try to keep things running smoothly. And one of the issues that came up was trapping. The issue came up because Matt showed concerns for the lack of deer, which I think most people that live in the centralized portion of the fort don't see a lack of deer because the deer hang out all around the houses. But from our hunting program perspective of it, Matt's having a hard time filling tags. So a couple of components that we all need to understand is that there's obviously only so many deer. 100 have been trapped by one company this year, and I believe it's 75 trapped by another company this year. So 175 deer have been trapped this year. In the last, from June of last year till now, 175 deer have been trapped. And the revenue generated from those 175 deer is, it's roughly $67,000. And if we had shot those deer with our hunters, we wouldn't just generate a lot more money than that, potentially double, but also a lot of these people stay at our hotel. They spend money at the gas station, at Super S, at Ziggy's and everywhere else. So these trappers that come in here, they buy these deer and they transport them to some other ranch, and some other hunter from Houston comes and shoots it, and they make the money off of it. So Matt's concern was that if we continue to trap the deer and we diminish our resources, that we won't be able to sell hunts. And the hunting industry for us makes more money. And he has some really good ideas on that. We don't currently turkey hunt. We do gun hunt on the fort. He was on the common area here, the main body of the fort, but he was for gun hunting on the 400 acres and bow hunting on the fort, making some adjustments there to make it safer for the residents, but also allow our deer to continue to flourish and have something to sell. Not just out of the selfishness of the fort, but also to be of service to our community, so the money that these people spend gets spent in this county. So the word from Matt is, as of right now, last year was the hardest year that he had ever had. Some of these people were sitting 4 sits and not seeing any deer that they could shoot. And they only come to the fort to shoot axis deer. They do not come to the fort to shoot whitetail. So that's why it's on the agenda. If everybody can just imagine having a field full of cows and you're trapping them and shooting them at the same time, they're not going to last very long. Okay, so we've got to protect this resource, in my opinion, and we don't need to overplay our hand. So Matt has recommended, that we probably need to do an evaluation every year and see how many deer that may or may not need to be removed, so that we can be a little bit more responsible about what we're doing. But as it stands right now, I'm in favor of not trapping and trying to capture that revenue as a community instead of just one person taking them somewhere else.
Just out of curiosity, has there ever been a game biologist study of this
Yes.
process? I personally have been involved in several different hunting operations where we utilized either a state game biologist or a private game biologist who gave us their opinion on, and it was primarily having to do with how many animals should be harvested in a given hunting season that would facilitate the growth of quality, and I had no idea that the fort was allowing people to trap axis deer and remove them and then take them and sell them. I realize that we get paid for removing a deer, but I may be going out on a limb here to say that I suspect that they were making more money than what they were paying us for that deer. But I'm also concerned about the population and utilizing it to the best extent that we can. And I think you've identified that we clearly would make more money hunting. Can you hear me?
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way to get the speaker a little closer to you. I don't know where the sound's coming from. Christina, where's the speaker at? Is that?
Maybe I should just talk louder.
I was sitting in the back and I could hear him just
Could you hear
fine.
him?
Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know if anybody had this. Sorry.
Is he done?
So I'm not questioning what Matt said at all about his recommendation. I just wondered if we in the fort had ever considered or had a game biologist perspective.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, this is Constance Kilgore, and I want to address what Tony's asking. Yes, we've had a state wildlife biologist here, and his recommendation was to trap a certain number of deer because we had too many deer for the amount of property we have, and as a result of that, our deer were smaller in size than what most hunters want to hunt. So that was why we had the trapping program in the first place.
Yes, ma'am, and that's correct. And Tony, just to answer your question, yes, there was a survey done. I believe it was maybe 7-8 years ago. So in that, it's been a long time, and that's why Matt's, basically saying we need to do it a little bit. We need to do something a little more, yearly. But since then, per Matt's recommendation or his testimony, he's saying that this has been the hardest year to date, or last year was the hardest year to date to kill any deer because there's just not many left. So, and he has said that he signaled that there had been a steady decline since we started trapping and since obviously we started hunting, doing an axis hunt in recent memory. So it's time for another evaluation, and obviously I think he's throwing up the red flag saying, hey, something's not right. We need to take another look at this, and so that's where we're at.
Yeah, there's certainly a balance that can be
Right.
struck
Right.
that would facilitate maybe both trapping and hunting.
Does anybody have a,
On the deer surveys, I do know a little bit about that. On a small property like Fort Clark, 2,500 acres, unless you have control of the ingress and egress, which is a high fence, you're wasting money. They're gonna go where they go. And there's deer here on the fort, there's plenty of deer in town. I mean, they're just moving around. You drive around the Brackenville at 5 in the morning, you'll see plenty of access deer. They're gonna go where they wanna go. And I'm not trying to make the point that you should trap. I'm kind of on board with you, John. What I'm saying is, I wouldn't bother with a biologist. It's not gonna do any good. And a spotlight survey is the cheapest way to go, and I've been through a lot of them. They're useless. I've also done the helicopter. The helicopter costs a lot of money, and it's only 50% successful at what you see. So, I mean, unless you can control it, unless the fort's high fenced, the surveys don't get it. Won't help you a bit.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Well, and I think Matt is reaching out to the game warden and coming up. So we'll determine the rest of the hunt next month. This month, we're just discussing the traffic,
The removal of the traffic.
the removal of the
Right.
traffic. So, if we're done.
Well, it may be a function of government that a lot of people think is useless. But what I can tell you is that I'm personally familiar with several people who have low fence properties, and a couple of them are about the size of Fort Clark, that in order to qualify for their wildlife exemption to get a discount on their taxes, they have to use a game biologist who can come in and conduct a survey that says, here's how many deer I think you should kill this year. So, I'm not here to promote the accuracy or the legitimacy of a biologist, but they do serve some function.
Yep. Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion? Or?
I'll make a motion to cancel the trapping until we have more information to make a different decision.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right. Consider approval of Ambitionz lawn landscaping cleanup for Unit 3. There is it in our packet. And this is for 2 properties, in my understanding, 2 of the 4 properties to clear all of the limbs, brush, completely clear the yards of 2 and remove any extra bushes and trees as needed. And we have and that's it, so.
These are Fort Clark properties,
2, they're owned by Fort Clark in Unit 3.
and they're overgrown, and that's why we need to hire somebody to go down and cut everything out?
Yeah, but you can't even see one of the houses in there, it's so overgrown.
Is anybody here from Unit 3 to describe these places?
I can describe it. I mean,
Come on, Rick.
I'm Richard Moore on the art committee. So these 2 locations, I do talk with Jason sometimes because he's also in Unit 3, but when it comes to these properties, they've overgrown. And it's going to be a hazard. You got critters, you got people that want to throw junk in there and hide it in there instead of taking it to the dump or put it out in the right spot. It's a hazard to that community. It needs to get done. You already got your violation letters that came in because it is treated as a property based off the CCNRs. So it has been addressed with me and him and talked about it.
Then the mobile homes are gonna stay there once it's cleared out, or that the goal is to get those removed? I mean, what do you know about that?
As for those mobile homes, you're talking about, what did I say last, Jason? Like almost $8,000 to get each trailer pulled out.
Each?
Each. Almost 8,000 plus. It's all depending on how they get it out because you're talking about, it's so narrow where they're at. If you get someone that's the cheapest option, which is out of Eagle Pass, he's the one that got the same trailers out of Unit 15. He may have done it for $800, but when he saw those locations, it's so narrow, he needs additional, maybe a Bobcat to pick it up in the back to pivot, to diminish all the items because you're talking about also name-breaking properties that are at there, items that are in the way. And he gets estimated about 8,000 last I talked to him. So.
I just want to make it clear for the membership, if our goal is to clean up the properties, to remove the trailers, that's an admirable goal for us. Maybe a start anyway.
Well, and we're looking at different options of maybe crushing those down and hauling them off on a roll-off and not try to remove them.
I'm gonna butt in a second.
Go ahead.
That one trailer has a wood cover over top of it.
Mike.
Okay.
That one trailer has a wood cover over top of it.
There's a lot of potential demolishing left to do. After we pay, if we were to pay these people $3,000 to remove just the brush and the stuff that needs to get out of there before that can start.
Yes.
So example of my location. on Unit 15. The total amount was $4,000 for me to demo it, with me and my helper. But it took a long time because there was items that we had discovered. There was having to cut down the frame, crushing it, separating everything, because I can't just take insulation and straight to the dump. It has to be bagged. Because we were also talking about there was bat feces that were stacked up chest high in a certain section. So we also had to pack that up separately. So whatever get discovered in there, because we also had, I believe you have a quote from Gerhardt, and that quote is that kind of close up accurate, how much it would cost to clean out the whole trailer, clean out the whole property because of the hazards in there.
There are axles on there.
There's axles, but we're talking about a 1980s version trailer, and they're not, and the reason why mine didn't get pulled out because of the structure.
Gotcha.
Right.
The long structure, it's been with water conditions, with mold, everything. It's not a resource for someone to take and use as another home, unless you were to set up a site out near the dump, pull them out, park them over there and get them broken down out there. But I don't even have a cost for that, because that's just an ideal option. I was talking with Pearson in the past, but we're talking about how narrow it is the problem, getting it out.
One of them doesn't have a floor in it either.
Yeah, some years ago, I called some companies and they were like, we want 60 foot of clearance to come in on each side, $7,000, is what they said. So those numbers, at least getting a company professional out of San Antonio. Now getting Buster and some rednecks to strip that thing down, extract all the aluminum and all this. I've seen people do it, take it down to the frame will be taken for free. And so there's more and less complicated ways to do it.
But this is our only bid, or we got multiple bids? There was
I think we
another
had
bid,
another
right?
one, but it was
There was
It was
another
a
one, it was
lot
like
more money.
a lot
Okay,
more money,
okay.
yeah.
And that's just for the
clarification.
lawn, like,
Just to get all the brush out so they can get to the trailer.
to CCNR.
yeah, so one comment on that. That property had or has some nice trees in there, like an olive tree and some other stuff. And then someone cried and maintenance just went and topped about half of them. So let's take into consideration what things have been growing in there for 30 years and what someone might like to have on their property, like an olive tree, the flowers, and other things of that nature, and not just go in there and weed whack everything like crazy.
Thanks.
Is maintenance gonna supervise these people? Make sure they get everything done?
I think it's Matt.
Matt's gonna supervise them?
Matt got all the quotes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve Ambitionz Lawn Landscape to clean up these 2 lots.
How much?
I second it.
$3,000.
Not bad.
That's 3,000 total.
Were you able to hear the motion, Tony?
Yeah,
Okay,
3,000 total for 2 lots, correct?
yes.
I second it.
All in favor? Motion passes. Next. Recycling, earmarking recycling income. Up until this point, the income that comes in for recycling is put into the fort, and then they come to us. It's not earmarked, it's just in there, and then when they need things, they either try to raise the money or the fort pitches in. Helena recommended or spoke to,
We talked about it.
talked about it, whether they keep it or earmark like preservation. So that was this discussion. So that money can be put back into recycling and not just into the general fund.
Right now, they need a new covering for the bale. Correct me if I'm wrong, Helena. They need a storage for the bale stuff. And this is probably the most practical way to raise the money. By the money they're making, the money from recycle gets recycled back into recycle.
There you go.
Yeah. We expect a check this week, and I asked Lisa, what am I going to do with it? Because normally I just turn it into the general manager, and it goes wherever into
the ether.
this general fund. So, but I keep track of how much we bring in, and last year it was more than $5,000, And I believe I gave you all a copy for 7 years. I think it was 21,000 plus. So, you know, we're helping the fort. But boy, we work hard to do it, so.
And I know there's been discussion in the past that, well, you know, the fort has to do a lot of labor and stuff to help with recycling, which is a cost, but that is more than set off in what you've saved us from going to the landfill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we probably already have dug new cells at this point.
Yeah, and as was mentioned last month, again, my data over 7 years was 600,000 pounds or a little less that did not go into the landfill, which is amazing, because this is all volunteer, so.
And with the size of our community, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And we do welcome, you know, people from Brackett, if they come, good, bring the stuff that they want to distribute. And I usually pick up from the bank, you know, they have shredded paper, what do you call it, the Methodist Outreach Program brings lots of cardboard to maintenance, and of course that goes into how much money we're making. And let's see, I used to go and collect cardboard from Rio Grande Electric, but I only have a car, so I wound up not doing it anymore. So, but, you know, everybody's welcome to bring recycle.
Is there any other entities on the fort that are, I mean, almost strictly volunteer that we take their money?
Preservation.
But preservation comes
Well,
out
but
of our
that
dues.
comes out of our dues.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
there's,
could be
you know,
individual.
there's no other, you know,
No.
The golf committee.
but the golf committee keeps their money and uses it for the golf course.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're already, I mean, that point would make that that's probably the better way to handle it.
Well, may I make a motion, or unless there's further discussion?
The only
Helmina just got the grant to buy that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've already,
Yeah, we got 10,500, 1,000 from Rio Grande Electric, and 9,500 from Coca-Cola. Keep drinking. Yeah, we need, you know, what gives us money in the long run is aluminum cans. So we encourage beer drinking and soda drinking always, and also to bring it to us. Like there's a ton that goes, people are thirsty when they're playing golf, especially now. So I've got a ton that I'm going to bring out. You know, they collect the cans, beer cans, so I'm going to grab them. So Monday, we're going to have a lot of aluminum cans to bail. So, yeah, Barbara.
I would think the only thing, if we were gonna do that as a board committee, that you just keep records of,
You bet.
of the funds and how you're spending it.
Yeah,
Or
and,
your report.
go ahead.
I was just gonna segue into the fact that we have Fort Clark Days and we have now the Eclipse event. And we need to focus on recycling all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cans and it's a major effort we need like an army of people on those days to go out and retrieve that. Last year you had the barrels for the first time. Two barrels. They put holes in the top so people could only drop
Yeah.
cans in. And then they still force
They
trash
still
down
were
in there.
food in.
So we may need to create a recycling army for
Yeah, see, that would be
events.
great. Our problem is, you know, I schedule people, can you work 2 hours a month? And boy, it gets difficult, especially in the summer when a lot of folks are on vacation and whatnot. So, yeah, so I'd love to have so many more people, you know, volunteers. The question that I had is, as I get income from the recycle, and it goes into, say, your, whatever you name it, recycle fund in the board, I still would have to, I mean, the accounting system will still keep track. When I say, gosh, we need to buy 2 pieces of lumber, that's still gonna, I still have to go to the board or the accounting people or general manager, I guess. So you'll have full accounting of what.
Are you saying you don't want to keep the funds yourself, or if?
Well, it wouldn't be in my name.
We're gonna earmark it, right?
Earmark it as the recycle fund,
yeah.
and you could keep better track of what's coming in and going out. So,
Just like preservation, correct?
Right, but we were also discussing, like, the golf committee, they keep their own funds.
yeah.
But if you, I mean, are you saying you'd rather not keep?
Oh, I'm happy to, hey, I love money. I mean, but it would have to tell me what bank account and all this, that what I'd have to do with it, that's all. So, that's part of the.
Okay.
Yes, Wanda?
I'm Wanda Selby. I am not a member, but I do give my opinion once in a while. I know a lot of people in Brackettville, and they are not aware that they, in fact, I've had some of them say, can I bring my recycle to the fort? And I wonder if there is going to be a process, because we would like for security to be a little more, to keep people out of the fort, tell you the truth. But there needs to be something, I don't know, maybe someone that recycles a lot, they could have a little something on their windshield or something so that people can come in from Brackettville, because there's a lot that could be in our recycle.
Well, that's definitely something we can put down as a discussion.
I have informed
Going
many
forward,
of the folks in Brackettville, but it's, they gotta make the time to come over here on Thursday and Saturday. But we
Well,
definitely want them to bring it if they have it.
I have people that bring me their bags of water bottles, and I take them to recycle, and I don't mind doing that, but I just wonder about the cardboard. That's what we get paid for, and I've had a lot of people ask me about that.
Well, and we can look into that. Let's stick to the
Yeah,
agenda
okay.
item, but those
Yeah,
are good ideas.
And I'm sorry to bring something up that I didn't know where else to put it.
Thank you, Wanda.
So we're gonna make a motion to earmark the money? Yeah. Okay, I make a motion that we earmark the money that Recycle earns for the money to be recycled back to the recycle center for improvements at the recycle center.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
I guess, I'm sorry, I appreciate that, and from my end, I'm still going to come to the general manager to request money when I need it. And you could keep, the accounting would still keep track of it.
Yes.
So, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
I think it would be simple. I would be I keep track just in my own, paperwork. But, and in fact, if anybody ever wanted to look at it, I have, 6 years of data. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Melina.
ma'am.
Unit 1 trash.
Unit 1 trash, I think that, Tony, you wanted to have a sort of a discussion on that?
Yeah, well, and maybe I'm, maybe I'm confused. It seems there's been a lot of discussion amongst people that live in Unit 1 about the problem that we have with garbage collection. And I actually talked to John the other day about how we could approach this. And if certainly, I know Constance is there, if there's any other people from Unit 1 that have something to say about the garbage collection, I've sent Lisa a couple of pictures of the location where the garbage trailer used to sit, and there's still people that dump refuse there, cardboard boxes, etc., that they don't put into the garbage collection trailer. And I know that John and others have had some discussion about what to do about the trailer, because the trailer was in a location that made everyone uncomfortable. And if I'm wrong about any of this, any of you chime in, but the trailer was, it had a smell about it. It was right in the middle of the parking area in Unit 1. So the trailer was moved, but I have to tell you that where it was moved to, I think, is not the optimum place, because in order to get to where the garbage trailer sits now, you have to drive through a little part of the driveway that is bumpy, and then you can't drive on through when you go past or when you dump your garbage in the trailer, because that goes into what I think is a maintenance area. And although a few nights ago I did drive into it, realized that the gate was shut on the other end, so I turned around and came back. But it's a little difficult, even for me, to back up out of there where the garbage trailer is currently located. Now, with that being said, I'm showing my ignorance about how we do garbage collection generally on the fort. And I don't know how it was that, I think I figured out how it was that the garbage trailer was being used for Unit 1, because so many of the units are, the way the Unit 1 is put together, there's not a central location other than with a garbage trailer that you can establish to allow people to deposit their garbage and have it picked up. And I asked that it be put on the agenda simply, maybe more for my benefit than anything, to figure out if everyone, at least those in Unit 1 or anybody else that has any observation about it, is aware, as I have become, that garbage collection in that area is an issue. I don't know that I wanted it on the agenda in order to resolve it once and for all, or we may not even have an action to take, but I am concerned that we need to address it, because I think my wife is a part of an email group where she gets emails about people in Unit 1 that are talking about getting together ever so often to try to clean up the trash around where the garbage trailer was located, because there are people, whether they're members of the fort or outside people, that are coming in and dumping trash, and they're not even putting it in the trailer. So it's a problem that I would like to see addressed, and maybe I'm being a little selfish about it, because I have a place in Unit 1, and I would like to see everyone in Unit 1 get some assistance with this idea of how do we dispose of our daily garbage, and where do we dispose of it. So I'm not here to offer a solution. I just wanted to know if there's others that are as concerned as me, and what maybe I've not been a part of previous discussions about this, but it is important that we try to address it and get some finality to how do we dispose of garbage in Unit 1. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And you have this, that we moved it because of that issue, to see if it would work better where it is now. Constance is here, and,
Are you gonna talk on it? Well, you've got something, I'm gonna be different from what you say, as I always say, I'll go first.
I can't hear what she's saying.
Hi, Tony, it's Constance. So, we do have good garbage service in Unit 1. And so every Monday morning at 6 a.m., maintenance comes and they they empty our trash cans that have been put out on the curb. And that works really well. That's what I use. We have other people that prefer to use that trailer. The issue has been not so much the Unit 1 people, but we have people coming in from all across the fort dumping things, mattresses, all sorts of trash, that if they had to dispose of it, they might be charged money by maintenance to pick it up. So that has been the problem that has happened repeatedly. Now, where it stands today, as I understand it, what Philip has said, is that we're supposed to put our white goods, like cardboard boxes, etc., now where the trailer is. And and I can tell you, I somehow didn't get the message, and I put a cardboard box out where everybody used to put the cardboard boxes and where the carports are. But now I know, so I think we're getting someplace with that. And Tony, you're right, it's tough. I think you're driving a truck, I'm driving a car, and going to the trash trailer where it is now, I have to avoid a big hole, and I can't back out of there either. And I've had to then go through the maintenance yard and out through the gate if it's open, which I don't mind doing. That's fine. So that's all I had to say about it. Thank you.
When Tony and I spoke the other day, Ms. Kilgore, that and what I expressed to him was that it was just moving the trailer to outside the carport was just a remedy for the immediate problem. So when I walked back there with Philip and said this is probably a better place to put the trailer for now, and then my major concern was that nobody would be able to turn around, and that if we got that complaint that we would keep taking steps to make it better, but due to the workload of them and the trash situation we have with, right now, it just it didn't make sense that they're going to have to move. Now, Tony, you probably witnessed this. They're going to have to move a lot of trash that looks like it's been there from 1901 just to make an area to turn around. So we probably need to get in there and move some of that stuff and make an area to turn around if that ends up being the final remedy. But it wasn't meant to be a permanent solution. It was just meant to be a step to get it out of the carport so that people were not being assaulted with flies every time they open their doors, getting in their vehicles and stuff. But as far, and I spoke with Tony about this too, as far as the trash goes and people dumping random trash, we've had these conversations in the past, and you know, we can put a camera out there. We've had it. And we can get the license plates and we can go chase the bad guys down and we can find them. But then the problem, in my opinion, becomes they're not going to pay the fine. And so we're in a quagmire where they don't pay the fine, but we send the fine, and then we've got to now make a decision in executive session as to whether we want to get a lawyer involved. And it just ends up being this long, drawn-out mess, and ultimately the best thing to do is for people to stop throwing their trash there. But we all know that's not going to happen. So I personally don't have a solution. I don't know what the solution would be to make people stop dumping trash in random places on the fort. So, but I don't think that fining all of them is necessarily going to work. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I just don't think it's going to work.
I believe the original.
Well, I want to make one observation. Constance is going to think that I was spying on her, but now that she's confirmed for me that she takes her garbage can out to a location where it's picked up by maintenance or someone with the fort, I actually saw her carrying her garbage can back to her home, and I was puzzled by that. I thought, what is she doing with that? I had no idea that there is a location on the curb where we can dump garbage. And look, I don't expect this board today to take any action on this issue, and maybe I put it on here more for my benefit than anything, but I think developing some discussion about how we can approach this is important. So like I said, we don't need to take any action on it. And maybe it's just been more of an educational discussion for me than anything at this point.
Tony, this is Anna Martinez. An update, I guess, is educational, since you said we do have garbage pickup for the people that have townhomes along Avenida Juarez. If you have a townhome that's facing the creek or in the back, you carry your trash can to the front on the access road. So if you see how Constance that lives in the back carries it all the way to the front full of garbage, in the evening she carries it all the way back. Some people are not capable of doing that, so that was why we got the garbage trailer. Also, we have Airbnbs where the people are there for the weekend. They can't take a garbage can out, so we direct them to go dump them in the trailer. We do send an email out to all the residents of Unit 1, and they were been told of this whole process. I haven't gotten any complaints on the trailer being moved back. We had a lot of complaints about flies and everything before. So I think we're going in the right direction of putting the trailer somewhere. I have had a lot of complaints about being able to back up, turn around, ruts in the road, and what happens when it rains and there's mud everywhere. The word hasn't gotten completely out to put anything around the light pole. I did send an email, but not everybody reads my email. My husband is the worst. He always says, "What are we doing about this?" But I think once we get everybody trained, also we've noticed that less people are dumping in the trailer now that it's been moved. I don't know if y'all hid it from the public or what, but we know where it's at, but there's less garbage in it now. So I think we're going in the right direction as far as getting the problem ironed out. We just need, like you said, a little bit more adjusting to it, being able to get in and out of there safely.
Okay.
Regarding the ruts in the road, I know we have some caliche over here at the recycle center. I think if our tractor is working, they can smooth out that road and fill in those holes with the caliche, so it'll be a smoother road for the residents if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Moving on to discussion item, consider approval of transformer upgrade at the RV park.
Do we have that in our packets? I didn't see that.
I know.
But I know what it's about.
Okay.
The RV park is the best way to describe it. The transformer is at a level, this is the way I understand it, it's at a level 50. We have a lot of RVers out there that are sucking up a lot of energy, and with the heat, they're just, it's just taking too much energy for that transformer. We want to upgrade it to a 100, and Rio Grande will do it. Rio Grande will, the way I understand it, the one that we had there, the 50, was replaced already, but now we have to upgrade due to the amount of the volume of people we have at the RV park. Thus, I believe they want to charge us up to $6,000 to go in there and upgrade all the transforming parts so that we'll have ample power for all the visitors we have at the RV park.
And for future growth? Yes, future growth and upgrade, and I know there was some talk of expansion and that type of thing. So I don't know if there's any other discussion, if...
No, I mean, it sounds like we have to approve it.
Yeah.
It has to be done.
So.
You know, just so that everybody understands, we're trying to dance a fine line here of the general, not being a general manager here, and then being transparent with the public of it all, we'll call it the larger expenditures that would, by our bylaws, require approval from the board for the general manager to spend anything above $2,500. He would have to write an email to the board, and he would say, hey, you know, I got to buy this transformer, I got to have it. And then we would approve it. And that would then be read on this report as a email vote. But we're trying to be a little bit more transparent, and that's why this agenda has so many things on here, because we're just trying to not leave anybody in the dark. And so while we don't necessarily need to have a big discussion about these things, because some of these things are pretty much mandatory, that's the purpose of it, so that everybody kind of understands.
I make a motion that we allot up to $6,000 for Rio Grande to install the upgrade of the transformer, a 100 transformer, to service our guests at the RV park.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Consider approval of a zero-turn mower, commercial.
Okay, I'm sure everybody noticed that the grass was pretty tall in some places. We have 3 dedicated members on the in our landscaping team on the fort. Last Philip told me we have 1 lawnmower and it's not a commercial grade lawnmower. So some of these numbers are pretty big. Obviously, all of us in here probably mow our lawn either with an electric or a push mower or a ride lawnmower or a zero-turn mower. But most zero-turn mowers that you're going to buy at Home Depot are not rated for 8 hours a day and for 150-degree temperatures nonstop, which is why you truly have to be in a commercial realm, and these lawnmowers are not cheap. So once again, this is just a higher price tag that is 100% necessary for the purchase of our maintenance staff to be able to make the fort look the way it needs to look. We're going to talk about purchasing 1 lawnmower. Philip had a great idea to buy some new blades for I think like a 70s model shredder and tractor that we had in maintenance. He got that fixed up, and that is literally going to save the fort roughly $15,000 to $18,000 by being able to use that shredder and us buying 1 zero-turn instead of buying 2. So just the precursor to why we're discussing this. So we have, I got a couple bids from people from Uvalde, Texas Ag Equipment, and John Deere. And the reason that we looked, that I looked in Uvalde is purely for the fact that anytime you buy a piece of equipment, you need to be really concerned about your service. And then when you think about that, you got to think about your warranty. And it's my opinion, y'all have these bids, that Kubota only offers a 60-inch lawnmower in their gas-powered. If you want to go to a 72-inch, you have to go to a diesel. And their diesel mowers are about $20,000. And their gas mower, which is 60-inch, is $13,000 plus tax. So speaking with Philip, they need a 72-inch mower, which John Deere, which is obviously everybody's heard of them, they're providing a 2-year, 24-month warranty. And they do have a Z950M, which is a 72-inch mower. We have a bid at $14,594. That's without tax. So after taxes, and I think it might be slightly lower because there's 2 of them on here. I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess that. So it might be more like $15,000 plus tax. But just so everybody understands, it's something that it's non-negotiable. We have to have lawnmowers. There's just a basic set of equipment that we have to maintain the fort. So that's what my recommendation would be to buy the John Deere 950 and get to cut some grass.
At the risk of raising maybe an uncomfortable issue, it's amazing to me that we got ourselves in this predicament at all.
Yes.
And I'm disappointed about that we would be in this position, but I agree entirely that we must have this unit, so I'm going to move that we approve purchase of the John Deere 72-inch that you just described.
Do I have a second?
That'd be up to $15,000.
Well, the bid's $14,594 plus tax. So I don't know what the actual total amount is.
So up to what?
15.5.
I second it. The 15.5. I second the motion.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Passes. And unfortunately, that'll probably not be the only big purchase that comes down the pike in the next few months, because there is a lot out there that is just hanging on by a thread. Pro shop proposal for restaurants. Is our next item?
The car for security.
Oh, wait. Oh, I checked the wrong one, sorry. Car for security, they're basically pushing it around the fort at this point. And I just found out it was $500. They paid $500 for that car.
Oh, gosh.
They got $500.
We got a $500.
Just a quick note. I'm pretty sure Tony voted with this on the last one because he made the motion. But the last couple of votes, I haven't been able to hear Tony articulate
Yeah,
whether
he's
he's
just
for
showing his
or
hand and
against.
then Julie's.
Could somebody,
Sure.
or,
Yes.
verbalize that which way he's
Yes.
voting, just so everybody knows?
Yes,
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a card?
Next time I'll speak up in addition to raising my hand.
Okay.
Do we have a card
What?
in mind, or we're just gonna?
So, the precursor to this too, so that everybody knows, security has been using this car for the last couple of months, and I want everybody to put themselves in this unfortunate situation in your mind. They have had, the windows won't roll up and no AC. I mean, we've devolved having to have AC. So I mean, I can't imagine rolling around the fort with it being as hot as it is. So I just want to give a shout out to security for handling the situation. Matter of fact, since our meeting where they told us they needed a car, I haven't heard any complaints. And I mean, God bless them.
The car's still rolling.
And the car's still moving. But
It has been rescued a couple times,
yeah,
but it's still.
but I just want to thank security because they truly understand the situation and they're not giving us any headaches and they're dealing with the car, but it's a dire situation.
I know this is a roll of the dice, but maybe someone from a member for the port may have an older car they may want to donate to the port. It's just something to consider. We don't purchase it.
So I did a bunch of research just trying to figure out what, and I stopped at the guard shack this morning. I talked with security, and they said, a couple of things. I'm for like a crossover SUV or a little SUV or something like that you can hold 4 people in, but it still has a trunk area and has enough ground clearance to go into the back of the fort. And when I stopped to talk with security this morning and say, what are your complaints about the car? And whatnot. One of the things they said is that the car has a hard time getting to the back of the fort. So a car isn't going to work. We're going to have to get that it drags on everything and it gets stuck and yada yada. So
we had one, but that one died a couple years ago.
yeah. So we need. It would be my opinion that we need something like an Xterra, like a mid-size SUV or a small SUV that is of a newerish model and.
Truck.
Or a truck, and I would just set a budget. I looked around at a bunch of different stuff. I would set a budget of $12,000 and tell Matt to find something that's under 60,000, 70,000 miles. Something that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yes, sir.
Bill Herman, what about talking to the sheriff of all the cars that they have confiscated, that they put out as an auction? Maybe they can work a deal where you could get one from them?
Sure. Well, we talked about that. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's only 2 counties left in the state of Texas. I'm not 100% certain on this, so Tony may be able to completely clear this up. Two counties in the state of Texas that are confiscating vehicles in the manner that Bracketville was, because we just sold all these vehicles in auction over here, and none of them were bonded.
I don't think they sold them all. That's why I
Okay,
make them.
but none of them are bonded. So now, if I'm not wrong, I believe there's lots of problems now with all the vehicles that got sold over there, because the people who bought them are not able to get title, because the people are saying that the county had no right to sell them, to auction them off. So I don't think we can get a vehicle over there. If any of that is true, yeah, I don't know that.
It was just a thought.
The discussion about that is much bigger than what you're describing, and I can tell you that I have direct involvement in it. I'm not going to get into all of the details of it, but what we determined in the long run was that there were very few of the vehicles purchased that we are actually having to do something about getting titles for. The rest of them went to Mexico.
No.
So the problem that we thought we had was diminished extremely. But yes, the determination was made that for those few vehicles that the people who bought them are trying to acquire title, we're going accommodate them and assist them with getting a bonded title. For future auctions, we are now, the county, along with, unfortunately, many counties in the state, are going to have to now go through a process of declaring or finding that these vehicles are abandoned under a different section of the Code of Criminal Procedure. We still have to send out notices. It's going to take a little longer, or the lead time on those notices is a little longer under this separate statute. But ultimately, we'll get to the same place where we can auction them as abandoned vehicles. But to get into the discussion of why that happened would really not be important.
Sure.
When you talk about acquiring a vehicle from the county, though, I can assure you, number one, the county can't give us a vehicle. And number two, the only way you're going to get a vehicle out of that batch of vehicles that's being stored there is to go bid on them. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that that's a good option to consider, because those vehicles have been sitting there a long time. And when you buy one at an auction like that, buyer beware, because you don't know what you're going to be getting when you do win that bid. It may be a cheap bid, and there may be a good reason it's a cheap bid, because you're then going to have to spend a whole lot more money on it to get it in a condition where it's usable. So
I understand that, and that was just a thought, another place to go. You know, you may be able to go to a car dealer who has cars on the lot that they can't sell, that would make a deal, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think maybe shift it, just because it's in the back of my mind, shift the discussion a little bit and say, what do y'all want to see? Because in my personal opinion, I don't like seeing security rolling around in a wagon of a car. And there's like an image that maybe we should think about creating here at the fort. We're not the only ones that see it. We live here, right? And we see it and we're like, well, whatever, that's just security's car. But what's the image that other people see when they come here? And so that's why I'm a little bit more for just finding a nice car that, maybe it's $12,000, or maybe whatever it is, but it's representative of what we want our community to look like when people come in the gate and see the car. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. It was just a thought of another avenue that may be usable. Rio Grande has auctions too, every so often, which is, those got a lot of mileage, don't go there. But I mean, what about dealers, who have cars on their lot that are just not sellable?
And that's where
But they would work fine for us, because we don't have to put a lot of mileage on them.
Right, yeah.
That was all.
And I think that's just a task that we give to Matt at some point when we get through this and he finds a car.
I wouldn't consider a car an SUV. I get a pickup truck only. It can help out during hunting season and so many other things. And that being said, where's the Fort Clark truck with all the painting all over it? Why isn't that put in place?
It's running around.
I haven't seen it lately,
But nobody's using that, and that represents Fort Clark. It's a truck. That's fairly
Is that the
model.
one Matt uses, the white truck? Is that what you're
No,
talking
there's
about?
one that
this one's got
fits in.
Fort Clark on it.
It's got a wrap on it.
Pictures of people on it and all kinds of stuff.
Are you on there?
Maintenance uses it to pick up cardboard.
Of course not.
And then they also use put the labels up on the display up front. So they're utilizing it for maintenance.
Okay.
I think it would be, I have no opposition to allotting some money for a used car for security. I think we ought to try to reach out to the membership in case they are trying to sell a car. I know before I became a board member, I offered a less than $130,000 Tahoe, 130,000 mile Tahoe. I offered it to the former GM and for $5,000, and he wouldn't take it. So there may be somebody in the membership that may be able to sell something at a reasonable price and not take us to the cleaners.
So maybe a dispatch or something?
Yeah, dispatch.
To start off as a phase. First phase, ask members. Next phase, if you don't get that, just start planning phase for it.
That's what I would consider.
Security needs something for a truck, because they have to go out on the perimeter sometimes.
Right.
Because even Matt has his truck, and I get you told him to go there, I speak up. But when it comes to security, they got to have accessibility to a lot of the lots, because what if Matt's truck goes down next? Let's make a plan for phases for vehicles too.
Yep. Well, I would say let's let's recommend to go ahead and approve at a certain amount, instead of putting out a dispatch and waiting, and then we can go ahead and approve the amount now, put the dispatch out, but he can start looking at the same time. Just to save the time. They need a new vehicle, and whether it's somebody that steps forward from the membership or he finds it out in a lot.
Do we put out a dispatch just saying, hey, send us your cars, or we say amount right now, or we just give that, like, write that on a piece of paper and give it to Matt? Because if we say it right now, somebody's going to bring us a 1980 for $10,000.
Well, we don't have to take it. We don't have to take it. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Can we send?
it takes everything a long time, and it's taken a long time to get to this point, and they're driving in the heat, and it's breaking down all the time. So I would rather, I mean, anybody from the fort can offer, but we can decline.
I will
If it's too
word it
much.
so people don't just start dropping off cars at the door. I'll make it clear.
And it's possible someone may donate it.
Yeah, it's true.
And we don't
Possible.
have to, so, but that's just my opinion to go ahead.
Okay.
But that's just mine, so. Any other?
I guess 12,000 makes me nervous. I don't know about 10,000.
I mean, that's fine. We just got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
I make a motion to up to $10,000
And put out a dispatch.
and put a dispatch.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Pro shop, proposal for restaurant. That sounds really big, it's not really restaurant at this point. Part of our vision going forward was to open something at the Creekside for Foodwise. Danny has been promoted, so to speak, to pro shop manager, and we tasked her with, coming up with something, and her idea would be to go small to start with, so we don't have to hire more people, and just work our way up from there. So her proposal is to start with hot dogs, and sausage probably, and two clear things. And she's costed out everything on here.
It's more supplies and just it's really hot dogs.
So she's looking at like from my understanding of just a food bar set out there, self-serve, with the paper stuff, so we don't have to worry about a dishwasher and all that at this point. With hot dogs and snacks and all the condiments, and that would be the first step.
So it's just like a hot dog deal that you would find in a convenience store or pretty much any other golf course.
If you've got the rollers,
Yeah.
Here's what she had to say. Selling hot dogs doesn't require any certifications or licensing since they are pre-cooked and considered a prepackaged food. We will likely sell more of what we already offer, such as chips, soft drinks, and beer. Hardly any changes to the pro shop need to be made besides a bit of rearranging. The impact to employees will be low since a self-serve hot dog is low maintenance. It's versatile. They can offer a variety of toppings such as the ketchup, custard, mustard, all that, and then maybe in the future cheese dispenser, chili, Frito pie nachos. We can just build from there. And let's see what else. Happy customers. That's about it, yeah. So, I mean, I don't.
What's the cost again?
It's $342.
And that's for all the supplies, the machine, and she costed everything. Disposable gloves, dish soap. Just not the actual food, because that goes up and down. But she thinks the food cost for hot dogs is really only going to be about, she costed it down to the penny, 54 cents per hot dog, including relish, so.
We'll make it back in a month.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so.
I have a question. Do you have to have any health certificate?
No, because it's considered a prepackaged food. It's already cooked, so we don't have to have a certificate for that.
And the Skinny County, so.
There is that.
Kunkel, the pro shop manager.
Okay.
I make a motion that we pay up to $342 for hot dog items, supplies to be served at the golf club as soon as possible.
I second the motion.
Any more discussion? No? All in
Excuse
favor?
me, did she say the money was $342, or I thought I heard $842?
$342.
For everything, including the machine?
Yeah.
You make it back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Tony? Tony approved.
I got all excited and closed my books up.
Ice machine.
All right, also, the next one is an ice machine for the pro shop. The one that's there has been barely working for months and is so old that the part we think we need is no longer made. And it's in the back of in the back where they're no longer at, so they would like a new machine. And right now, all three of ours are down, so we need to get things up and running.
That's what I was gonna mention. It's unfortunate we're in the current situation, but the machine for the motel has not been working. The one at the golf course is on its last leg, and where's the other one?
The motel.
Oh, no, the bartender, the bar.
At Dickman, yeah. That one is sort of working now. They're
Sort of
on
working.
it, yeah,
Okay.
so,
The one at the motel is not, we're not helping any of our visitors, right, or guests, because we don't have an ice machine at the motel?
right,
That's the current situation?
that's a current situation.
Are we working on getting it fixed?
Yes,
But we need a new one at the club.
at the golf course.
Club,
Yes.
yes.
And she's asking for a smaller unit. She thinks the one that was there was more than they needed. So the one she is looking at is the Scotsman UC 2024
For $28.95?
For $28.95. And she gave me the price, or she gave me the amount of that it would make.
It's right here.
Oh, was that right there? Thank you. So it would produce 230 pounds of ice a day and holds about 80 pounds, which means that's plenty for them to bag up. They do have the freezers to, for tournaments to go ahead and bag the ice up and have it set aside. And this is a small enough one, they could put it in the storage area closer to the creekside part.
Okay, so what, in her notes here, she says, by filling bags of ice daily, we can store enough on busier days so that we have 2 extra freezers there that we can use for storage.
Yeah, there's 2 chest freezers there. So they usually bag and then keep it in the freezer, especially for tournaments, they run through it. Or if one of the other ones goes down, they kind of go back and forth. They've been using Dickman's quite a bit.
Excuse me, I'm not sure I heard right. Bill Herman again. Are you going to have the ice machine inside so that it's only accessible when
Yes,
the
yeah.
pro shop is open?
Yes.
Yes.
In other words,
Yeah, no,
I
not
can't
outside.
run down there at 4 o'clock in the morning and grab some ice. Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Katie Brown. Obviously, if it's an ice machine, it's gonna have to be hooked up to a water line, right? Do we have a filter system, a pre-filter system before the water goes into the ice maker now? Because
There
we
is
know
one.
how hard the water is, and who keeps track of the maintenance on the machine, changing those filters and?
I've just found out recently, nobody. So we have somebody going around and has looked at them all and is ordering new filters, except I don't think for that one, because we have to decide this, so. So going forward, yeah, we either need to mark it and have whoever is, over that machine.
Yeah,
keep
you
an
need to
eye on
have
it.
a good filter system on it.
Yeah, otherwise the machines won't work. at all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a member, I have a question while you're determining size. So in theory, when the pro shop is open, I could go out there and buy a bag of ice?
Yes,
We're saying that?
that's the way it's been in the past.
It has it?
It's just not, well, it's publicized now, but it didn't used to
Sorry.
be
I
publicized.
never buy ice cream.
Well, now that you just said that, we're gonna have to get the bigger one.
I want to take it into consideration because I think all of us might like to go buy ice from the post
I thought it was
office.
just for the golf club.
No, they will sell it to the members.
I have a problem with it ever going with the smallest one, just because it's compact and this and that. I mean, looking
Well,
here,
I did ask her if there was a bigger one. She didn't have a chance to get back to me. Because I'm like,
because you got this 2 foot wide one, and the next one down it's only 22 inches wide, but it'll hold 150 pounds, and it'll do 300 pounds a day. This first one's 230 pounds a day, and only holds 80. So, I mean, in the event that people were coming and buying ice, it just, a little, and it has, I mean, on here, it has a little bit better warranty, and it has diagnostic features and troubleshooting support, which could be beneficial. It says preservation mode maximizes uptime and notifies users of potential issues. So I don't know, it doesn't seem.
She had mentioned that the other one is, didn't you just say that she mentioned that the one she had was way too big? The one they had there was overly.
right,
you bought
but
too
it
big
was
of a-
at 500 pounds, I think, is what
Oh.
the old one was. And I think she's been trying to keep all the costs down too. When I talked to her, but
The ice machine that's over there now that's broken was bought by a golf committee years ago. And it's gone, it's
yeah,
dead. It's a big one, but now, from what I understand from other people, I don't know for a fact, but that the fort was also using it for the bar. The bar would come get ice.
and then the bar got one.
Yeah, and then the past golf committee didn't like that. I don't care one way or the other. But there's plenty of room right by, so I went back there and looked, and back there in the old kitchen there beside the sink there, plenty of room for a big ice machine, water right there, drain right there, no problems. Okay?
Okay.
I think the issue would be.
I'd go bigger.
Yeah,
I'd go
Yeah.
bigger.
I'm thinking we gotta go bigger, because if what I'm hearing is that we have a problem in the hotel, we have potential members that might wanna buy ice. If the hotel one went down and the bar one, didn't work or
Wasn't big
whatever, then
enough.
now the golf course is gonna get assaulted. And now all that pressure is gonna get put on, the golf course. And
That's fine.
for $1,000 extra, you're looking at a lot more features, a better warranty, and it holds 90% more ice.
Yeah, as long as they're bagging it up and keep those chest freezers done, if anybody else runs short, then they can just come there and get it, or, I don't know if they need to pay the pro shop or whatever, don't care. But as far as anybody buying ice back there, I don't know why they would, because they're not supposed to bring in drinks anyway. And if they buy the drinks, they get free ice.
Right.
So I don't know.
But just a member that wants, to have a
Yeah.
party at
Yeah.
home and wants a bag of ice.
Right, but as far as golfers go, they
Right.
never buy ice.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea to get a bigger one, like you say, John, because if the freezer's filled with bags of ice and the one goes down at the bar, you have a problem, your problem solved. I go bigger.
Sorry, I don't have a question, I have a clarity question. You're saying that you already, Joanne Gordon, you're saying you already have a system in place for the one that's at the motel, right? That's not working?
We
There's
get a
a-
system in place.
There's already something that's being worked on, like that one's being taken care of.
Yes, we're
Correct.
trying to find out what the problem is.
So this is like, that one's being taken care of now, this one is completely not working, and
Completely
that's
not
why.
working, and the one in Dickman is having some struggles.
That's all, I just wanted clarity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other?
Hey, Tony, what do you think?
I like the notion of going with a little bigger machine. I think it's important that whoever's there staffing it do exactly what the gentleman suggested, and that was bag it up. Let's stay on top of that and bag it up and store it in those chest freezers.
Yeah, they
So
do
that
that.
we have a little surplus of ice.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
John, go ahead.
I make a motion to buy the MCO322 Prodigy Elite, given to us here for $3,974.
I think that may be without tax, so, plus tax,
Plus tax.
whatever that is. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Spend it like we got it. I feel like Tim Allen though, you know.
So,
More power. Sorry, that was really bad, I'm sorry. All right, pool. Did that get printed,
no.
the pool rules? Let me pull them up. There's been a lot of tension down at the pool between members, non-members, the staff, and everything else. And we have a board down at the pool with rules on it, a board at the top with different pool rules, unwritten rules, rules that are in our rules and regulations. So let me pull up. The rules and regs.
John, I just sent it to your phone.
You just send them up on, is that what you said?
The blue ones.
The blue ones. What are the ones for the pool?
The one down by the pool is the closest to our original. I'm sorry, I thought I had it printed out. So I would like to see us, my opinion is to see us, for one, roll back a bunch of this and go back to our original that, you know, is part of our governing documents.
And that's, so what y'all just sent me is not what's right here?
Is that the one down at the pool?
Yes, yeah, this is by the
That
shack.
one's close.
By the shack.
That one's close. Our original rules are, you don't run in the pool, use any type of glassware, cutoffs or long pants. I'm not sure why anybody cares about that, but engage in pushing or horseplay, throw any objects other than beach balls or frisbees, leave any children younger than 12 without adult, allow children in diapers, swim in the spring, creek, or diversion spillway, don't litter or throw trash, use profanity or loud music, have beverages within 10 feet of the pool, which is another one I'm not sure about, have illegal substances, and you can't have your bicycles or skateboards or rollerblades. And those are our rules. Those are the basic rules. But there is a ton more that are no thong, there was no sitting on the wall, no climbing over the pump, dogs are up above in a different section, sorry, yeah. In that area, there's no dogs.
Yeah, section 7 has the no dogs, where dogs are prohibited from the swim park area within the following boundaries.
How about no nude swimming?
Well, you know, personal preference. So there's just been a lot of contention of like no cornhole. Yes, cornhole, but only in this place, only in that place, and it really comes back to just basic. If you're annoying everybody else, stop doing it. but we can't make a rule for everything that goes on down there, and you know, members don't know. I've had a lot of complaints myself from members that are like, I go down there, you know, 8 months out of the year, nobody says anything, and then I'm down there during the summer, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, or, you know, that we're being ruled to death.
Hold on a second, Barbara.
Sure.
Let me just read what we have there at the shack. Must wear current wristband, which everyone gets at the gate. There's no lifeguard on duty. Use park and pool at your own risk. Children under 12, which is already mentioned. Fort Clark can deny access to anyone at any time. Fort Clark is not responsible for theft, loss, or injuries. No horses in the park. No pets in the pool area. Keep out of the spring. No fishing tackle in pool area. No cooking in the pool area. No littering. Pool closed on Thursday. Swim park closes at dark. No inappropriate attire. And they specify specifically no string or thong bikinis. So, as a member, I think they're all pretty reasonable. Most of them, and people, it's unfortunate that everything has to be spelled out, but and that's to protect all the membership.
Just one comment. We go down and do deep water aerobics, so we're there several times a week. And we all think we remember seeing a sign fairly close to the kiddie area. It's not there anymore. And it said no standing on that wall between the adult pool and the kiddie pool. And that may sound trivial, but it's slick. And we are terrified because we see the kids running back and forth on it. And we all tell them to get off, because all it takes is a slip, and we're going to have a child permanently injured, if not dead. That was the only thing about signs that I think is really important, is not to stand on that slippery wall. You would think that parents would know better, but the parents don't necessarily get in the pool, and so they don't know that it's slippery. Just a note.
Thank you.
And to just clarify some of that, they were also, and it's not happening now, but they were not letting them go over it, sit on it. You know, there was a lot of, and this is just my opinion. We have attendants down there, and we're asking them they're young, and we're asking them to act like lifeguards, which puts us in a liability situation. Because I've had members that don't understand they're not lifeguards. And if somebody gets in there and drowns and they're not saved, or you know, they don't know how to help them, we're going to be liable, because they're going to be like, well, I thought I was safe, even though the sign says no lifeguard. You know, so my opinion is that, you know, I think we need to go back to our basic rules, and change how we have them work down there. I mean, we're all adults. People are going to do stupid things, and people are going to get hurt. But I don't think we should rule ourselves to death on this, and that's just my opinion.
So, is the problem that we're issue processing that there's too many rules?
Too many
or
rules.
are we talking about the tenants enforcing rules that aren't written?
A little bit of both, because we have them all over. Our documents say what our rules are. They're, you know, they've been recorded. They're a governing document. These are the rules. But then, you know, we keep adding to those rules, and then some of them are written down on the board. Some of them are not. Some of them are, you know, just.
So, where did the rules come from?
Those particular rules have been up there at least 5 years.
No, the ones that are unwritten, the ones that aren't right here or on that sign, where did those rules come from?
Some of them came from Mr. Peterson, which is, you know, worrying about liability. And some of them are an incident happens, and it's like, okay, well, this is a problem, so we're just not going to allow it anymore. Instead of, okay, this was a problem, don't do this. You don't just keep making up rules whenever we have a problem.
I think if the people that are working down there follow the rules that we have in our governing documents, and the ones that are written as you enter the park, and the ones by the shack up front, I think they're all kind of overlapping, and I do think that it does protect the membership. The cornhole thing, and I mean you know, if there's 1,000 people there, it's pretty disrespectful to be throwing cornhole in the front of other people's faces. I mean they will be asked to be moved to another location, of course. But if no one's down there and they're playing cornhole, that seems pretty reasonable. I mean, if there's 6 people and people are playing cornhole and there's no one else down there, well, that seems okay. You know, they can play by ear. But if there's 1,000 people there, it's not a good idea.
Tony, what do you think?
Nope. Your sound.
Hey, Mel, you got your list?
We need to be simple yet consistent. If we have rules that are not written, that's not going to work. We need to have, and I don't know what if we're prepared to solidify those rules today without getting a solid list. These are the rules. So I certainly don't like the notion of having to instruct those folks that are working down there to start being more authoritative. But if that's what it's going to take in order to enforce those rules, then we need to set them down and say, here is what you need to do. When you observe this conduct going on, you need to do something about it. You need to say something about it. But I'm troubled by the fact that we have a set of rules that are posted on a board out there, and then we have another set of rules that nobody knows about. I'm concerned as well about visitors, guests that come that may not know about these rules that are not posted on the board when they go into the pool area.
Correct.
So, I don't know, how would you suggest that we establish that simple yet consistent set of rules that everybody knows about when they go into the pool area?
I got something that we may support with. So, typically at like SeaWorld and all these other event places, what do you do constantly when you get ready to buy the tickets? You sign an agreement on there of what the rules are when you come in. Like if you're not a member, we already have our members familiar with our rules because they have them when they get their house. So these non-members that come in to the gate, I need to sign this before you can come in. That could be a solution to help that they didn't warn. Because didn't you on your list say that the fort has the authority to kick them or remove them?
Yes.
Okay, so we already have that in place, but is that in there? Because then it would have to be in our rule, in our documents, right?
What would have to be in our
The one that the fort has authority to
Deny access.
deny access and everything. If we got that well formed, then that's your bread and butter. Because who's out the time that goes down there to clear them out? It's Matt or the security team. They're the ones that have to ask them to leave, or someone that's representation of the fort. But if you were to just with mainly the ones that don't know our rules, you might as well show them in the face before they enter in the property, which is at that checkpoint. But I don't know what your alternatives on the other side, if they park over there near, closer to the front.
They still gotta pay.
We
Yeah.
still have to go through the same place.
They need the
Okay.
wristband.
So that's what I would suggest, because that's what most location, yeah, a lot of copies.
Well,
Or
we
you
can
can
do
set
it
it on the tablet.
electronically. We can put it on a tablet
Yeah, you
or
can get a
something
tablet.
like that.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And then just have them sign it.
Well, I think some of the other problem, Richard, too, is that we're talking about capacity changing the rules. So if there's 6 people down there and they're playing cornhole and it's midnight, nobody cares. But all of a sudden it's noon and there's 600 people, all of a sudden now it matters. So how do you regulate that? You know what I mean? Like it,
Well, that's why you have
obviously
to do
there's decency
simple,
that we
yeah, simple basic rules, and then the rest is common sense. You know?
There's always a senior. So establish it as if I'm taking my family. I'm the one that signed that, so I'm the one responsible for who's ever in my party. So if I was the one that signed this and agreed to it, they're gonna come and pull that up and say, well, you agreed to this rule here. You got to take your whole party off the property, because that's how you force it. Just get whoever's the driver or the senior member, the senior adult.
I think it's a great idea, but we're trying to minimize some of the stuff, but if we do that, we're increasing it, so. But I think that's a good idea too. I mean, the thing is, we can't legislate good manners, that's the problem. And if people are rude and obnoxious, either they're playing loud music, I've heard people cursing down there, when it really gets under my skin when there's 4, 5, 6-year-old kids in the kiddie pool, and people are talking like they're at the alibi. You know, it's just not the same. But how do you legislate that?
It's not
You know?
really.
But if you can't curse down there, then we can ask them to leave.
Well, I don't think we need to have our folks that are working down there have to exercise any discretion. These are the rules. Enforce those rules.
Correct.
I don't want to put the burden on our folks that are working there to have to make that discretionary decision.
Yeah.
That's my concern too, Tony, is that you have these young men that may go up to, say, 40-year-old male and try to tell him what to do. How do you think that's going to go? And they're not trained in de-escalation tactics or anything like that. So, you know, it's a tough situation. You know, if everybody was cordial, it wouldn't be a big deal. But unfortunately, that's not what
And
we're
they're drinking, forget it.
Bill Harmon again, just a thought or a question. People in the motel have access to the pool, is that correct?
Correct.
I think you ought to have a posting of the rules of the swim park in every room.
That'd be inexpensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the same for the RV park?
Yeah.
They don't
Park people have access to the pool?
RV Park has access also, they're member
Same
guests.
thing,
Yeah.
the rules should be
Well,
posted
and if
there.
they're member guests, if they're not members, if they're member guests, then they need to sign it if we do something like that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, you know, the motel has access to the pool, therefore the rules should be posted in each room. If the RV people have access to the pool, then it should be posted in the day room or someplace over there. And, you know, it's not my, if I work here, it's not my responsibility to make you read it. You have a responsibility to know what's going on, therefore you should read the rules once you're here. You know, unfortunately, we live in a you owe me society. I don't have to do a damn thing except the government pay me.
One quick comment. The young people that we have working down at the pool, I know that in cases like you suggested, it would be hard for them to enforce some kind of action if you have some belligerent person who's not using common sense. But they always have and should use the option to call security to handle any situation.
And that's what they're told to do. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Sandy Hagan, Unit 27. And I know you've addressed this, but I want to reinforce it, that our pool is one of our largest or biggest liability issues that we have here. It's one of the reasons that our general liability rates are as high as they are, that and hunting, you know. So I think our rules should be consistent. I like having the board posted at the entry point, but those same rules, not different ones, should be down at the pool. And whatever it is, I think we are covering most things now. And like you said, you can't legislate good behavior. But Matt's there, he does a really good job, he responds quickly. But if we just have the rules in the same rules in the same place, I think that's probably going to take care of some of the problem, because it doesn't make any sense. And I think that Tony will agree, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So these rules that people make up, you know, on Sunday that don't go on Thursday, they actually don't exist. So if it's not in our governing documents and it's not on the board, then it's not a rule.
Yeah. I agree with that, yeah.
I agree.
Further discussion.
And I do know that, you know, it's a the pool is a liability. Well, this whole court's a liability. But every HOA, pretty much every HOA, all of these places, none of them have lifeguards. None of them have attendants. They have rules. Those are a little more closed because they don't allow the public, but I just think it's something to further look at, to simplify, to de-escalate some of this stuff and to not put it all on the attendants. And so I don't have a motion to make, but I do think we need to
Just
take it a little further.
Our members, do I have to come up there?
Yes.
Yes, Sharon.
Come on, yes.
Come on.
You gotta be on camera.
I don't want to be on camera. We want to see your pretty face.
No.
Sharon Gregor, Unit 27. Can members address people if they're in the pool, if they're doing something wrong? Like,
I mean, you can, but
if we
they may
see
not
somebody,
listen.
well, if we see somebody doing something that the attendants don't see somebody doing. A couple of weeks ago, I was at the pool with Katie Burkhart, she's not here today, And a young man was on the steps. I was getting ready to go down the steps, and he's leaning over, going to do a one-finger nose blow in the pool. And I was furious, and I called him an a-hole. I said, how dare you do that in our pool? I said, have some common decency for the rest of us. And I got in the pool and he left. So
Would you like to be hired as an attendant?
When I'm at the pool, I watch people. And so if I see somebody, or if Katie Burkhart sees somebody, we address it. Kids climbing on the wall. You're not supposed to be up there.
But isn't that the way society's always been? I mean,
well,
the takes a village didn't come from 10 years ago, you know.
True. So, I mean, it's okay if we correct people that are doing something wrong?
I think you gotta follow your conscience. If my children were doing something wrong, matter of fact, we were down there the other day, my children were on the wall, and the tenants went over and said something to them. I didn't say nothing. I mean, they felt like it was dangerous, and they told them to get off the wall.
Right.
I think we just, cordialness and common sense.
Common sense is in the trash. But yeah, okay, I just wanted to double check. I didn't want to holler at somebody if I wasn't.
So that was down in the shallow end, was that?
You know, where you go, where everybody goes down those little
The
steps.
booger's gone.
That's what I was gonna say. At least he had the decency to do it in the shallow end, where you go right down into the creek.
Well, it may not have made it over the wall, but he was directing it at somebody that was on the adult side.
That is gross.
Oh, you know, he was being nice. And I called him.
Let me say this, I was
Thank you,
there
Sheriff.
when that happened.
Oh, you were?
I was there when that happened, what she's describing, and the group that I was with wanted to form a cheerleading section for her. Having addressed it that way, I think you have to keep in mind that we as members, it is our pool.
That's right.
And so, yes, it is appropriate for any member to point out a rule violation.
Right.
What I would suggest further, though, however, is that don't put yourself in any danger of trying to enforce that rule, but instead call on one of our attendants or even call security if you observe something like that happen. But in order to get there, we need to establish our consistent and simple set of rules. And like John said, we can't establish a set of rules that's going to address every situation.
Right.
But I think we can concentrate on establishing a set of rules that are simple and consistent. And every member is entitled to point out to anyone that's there that they are violating that rule. So I encourage you to do it, and kudos to you
Thank you.
For having identified the rule breaker. I don't know that we can put that in a rule.
I'm trying to picture that on the board, but it's not rocket.
Conduct unbecoming of a person that's swimming in our pool.
All right, so we are out of time.
I think Sharon needs her cheerleading.
Okay, on that point, sort of, as members that are going to be, say, enforcing and not enforcing, can we also please set the example when we get our rules straight, streamlined? We as members have to follow the rules. We are not an exception. No matter how much we all want to be. If we set the example, visitors will follow. Please.
Perfect.
All right. Item number 11, consider approval of a variance in Unit 27. I think, did I get all of them? And the member couldn't be here, and I think her proxy was supposed to be, thank you. Ms. Bitter, but Ms. Bitter's not here. So, okay. The variance is to, is the form in here?
Yes, it is.
I'm here in place of Ms. Bear.
Okay.
But the,
No, the variance form and stuff, I know is this one.
Joanne Gordon, I'm the secretary of the architecture committee. Frances asked me to come in her stead, but the member was notified that a member of the architecture committee could not be her proxy, that she would need to represent herself.
Oh, okay.
So she was notified of that,
Okay.
but I personally didn't hear anything from her, so.
All right, no problem. So, the variance request is, she has a temporary shelter at the back of her property that is in the setbacks.
Is that it?
No, I mean, this is it, but, sorry, we just don't have a form. The carport is within 1 foot of the property line. It's on Unit 27 on the golf course. The setback in that is 10 feet. And the only way to access that carport is from the back of the property, which is in green space or on the car.
It's in the golf, I believe that is in the golf course.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
And I'm not sure, I asked Matt, I believe he said he gave you the information of whether or not the vehicle is even registered and drivable.
He said he sent a letter in to.
Because then that's a
Right.
rule,
Right.
rules and regulations violation.
Do you know what the setback is on the back?
It's 10 feet and she's
9 feet
within,
in.
she's 9 foot inside of it.
So
She's
Okay,
only
so
a
she's
foot.
encroaching 1 foot.
No, she's encroaching
9
9 feet. She's only 1 foot from her property
Yeah,
line, but
okay.
9 feet into the setback.
Into the setback.
Understand, okay.
So, and that in itself could be a variance, but the question is, you can't.
She can't
Well, there's-
move the vehicle without driving it across
Right.
the golf course. And then the question is whether the vehicle is even, like I said, if it even has, if it's operable and if it's current registration.
And that's a
there's like-
separate thing from, yeah.
Right, that would be you guys all by yourself, but I'm just saying there were like different factors. It wasn't just one. It was the carport, I believe, was built, she had a permit for it, but she did not put it where the permit allowed. It was put in a different position.
Right, and she has, yeah.
Right. And then the fact is, if she were to move the car, it would have to go into green space on the golf course. And then she's inside the setback.
Yes.
Okay. So where was the carport originally approved for? I just don't see
It was
it
supposed to be 10 feet.
in here.
That's that.
Well, it can't even be 10 feet. I mean, based off these drawings, it can't.
From what I remember, I don't have the permit with me.
I don't
From what I remember, it was supposed to be in line with her home. So if you went in front of her house, you wouldn't see the carport. It would be behind the house and line up with it. And it's sitting off to the side of the house. And or it's sitting off to the side of the property, and that's where it goes outside of.
But it seems like the carport at the back, I'm just trying to figure out details here, but it seems like where the carport ends at the back, there's not even enough room to put this structure in without violating setback.
That may be true.
Is that right, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's
So
only,
then
looks
what
like
was,
there's only
how did it
6.
ever get approved that she could put the structure there?
That was
It's before our time,
that
before
was
me
a
and Joanne came on.
previous architecture committee, and when she came in for the original violation, she brought people with her. That I believe Lisa was on the architecture committee at the time, and she made a phone call to Phoebe Bordelin, who was on the architecture committee at the time, and they said that they gave her approval, but when we asked for the measurements, because like I said, she was outside of what we saw the approved permit.
The approved permit
It
was for 10
wasn't
feet
where,
from the setback.
the structure isn't where the approved permit showed it to be installed. So we asked her to get, to show if she had a variance or to give us the measurements, and she didn't get back to us. I believe Matt is the one that went out and got the measurements that we have now. So she had a permit, she just went outside the permit and put it in a separate place that it was supposed to be.
Is it my understanding that the structure has already been erected or constructed?
It's been there for quite some time.
I don't believe it's a permanent structure. According to the owner, it's not a permanent structure. It can be moved.
It's like one of those little sliding,
It's
you know,
there.
those little sliding carports, you can kind of move them around or whatever.
And it's just got the fabric over a metal frame.
Whatever moves it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
but
what we're
what I'm
asking, is
also
for her to be
hearing
inside
is
the, like,
that
the.
in order to utilize it, one would have to drive across golf course property.
That's correct, but I'm not even there yet. I'm trying to figure out who approved the original permit and what was the date on that.
2021.
So 6/18/21, okay, she has an application date for construction permit right here. And in the notes, it says brief description of permit request. The addition of the carport enclosed, picture attached, is 10 by 15 gray mesh eggshell metal carport. But when I go back and look at the picture, and then that presumably was approved. When I look at the picture, there's no way for that to be installed at the back of her house without violating setback. But it was approved. So somebody got their math mixed up and approved it, correct?
And I wasn't on the committee at that time. I think maybe Joe Alactus was on the committee, I'm not sure.
No, I wasn't on the.
Maybe Francis Bitter. Maybe those are the only
Francis was
two.
on there.
Those may be the only two
You
members.
see where I'm going with this,
I
Tony?
think what
We have two
happened-
problems. We got
I
two
mean,
problems.
before we even get to what I mentioned, it is violating setback rules.
Yeah, but it was approved.
But it
by
was,
the architectural
but it was
committee.
approved, I just can't, I
Right,
wasn't
and the
in the
drawings-
approved one, so I can't tell you.
Yeah,
give
the
you
drawing
information on that.
on the original permit showed that it fit. So I think the problem was.
So if we had the original permit, that would help. Yeah, to understand what's.
It's in violation now, so we just need to
I
move
mean,
forward
yeah,
with
it's
what
in-
we.
yeah.
You need to move
Well,
forward.
am I correct in that the architectural committee merely makes recommendations to the board to approve?
No, only for a variance.
Only a variance, yeah.
Oh,
For-
only
for
for
just a
We
regular
didn't, we didn't give a recommendation either way, we're just saying it's outside of our purview, so we let her know that she needed to come and ask for a variance with the board. We're just giving the information, the facts, for you to make your decision. We didn't recommend or not recommend.
So this, what I'm going to read one sentence. This is Joe Alactus. I'm also on the architecture committee. Read one sentence from the permit.
The original?
You have the permit?
I mean.
Now I have, this is just what she signed. It says, I certify the information provided on this application is true and correct, and that I've read and understand and will comply with the CC&Rs applicable to my unit.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
helps,
we're not,
okay.
yeah.
It's already.
It's
gotta
in
resolve it.
violation, she's paid the fine. So, you know, we just need to remedy the situation, whether it's a variance or removal or however it goes. I mean, that's where we're at this point.
I have some other things to say, but finish what you're going to do.
Is it about this?
Yes,
This variance?
about the variance.
Any discussions on
About
that?
variances.
Well,
Oh.
that's another.
That's another,
Well, it has to be discussed.
not necessarily today.
All right, you say what you're going to say, and then I'll get up and say what I'm going to say.
Well, Joe, right now, we're gonna decide whether we're gonna approve the variance or tell them to remove the vehicle. That's what we're gonna decide right now. We're not gonna discuss the history of variances, present, past, or future. That's, the variance, every variance, it's got its own individual thing.
I have a quick question. So she was permitted to do one thing and did something else, is that correct?
That's what it appears.
Basically, yes, I think that's what happened. So, that is not an uncommon occurrence over the years. So, yes, and that's been taken care of. We just are now at this point. And we're not here to,
Rehash the past.
you know, and vilify somebody that's not here at the moment. You know, we're just talking about whether we're gonna allow a variance or not. So,
And I'm only asking questions because I'm just trying to understand the situation. I
No,
did go look at it this morning, so I understand where it's sitting and the ingress egress problem. I get all that, but I'm just trying to figure out where we were at in procedure.
So the other thing that I want to say is about variances. The board gives out too many variances.
okay, we're not gonna do that right now, Joe.
But it has to do with this, what we're talking
You
about.
don't even know what we're doing. We haven't made up our mind yet.
I only have one more comment. If it was, excuse me, common area where the ingress, egress had to be, I wouldn't see a problem with that, but you're talking the golf course.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No.
Yeah.
Correct.
No, you're correct. I mean, there's a lot more behind this, but I'm not gonna discuss, her personal, this vehicle is, her son is supposed to take it. It was her husband's. So there's just history behind that. So I don't want to ascribe any motives to what happened. We just need to decide what to do going forward. And the biggest issue, you could allow us, into the setback for a building. I mean, if it was storage, we could allow that, but, and she isn't taking it in and out. I do know that. I think my suggestion would be to allot a certain amount of time for her to move the vehicle.
And the storage has to come down as well, right? The cover?
Because the cover, what's over the vehicle is what's
In violation.
9 foot inside the setbacks.
Right.
So even if the vehicle were gone, there would still be a violation present.
Well, without the vehicle, there'd be no need for it to be there anyway. So if we,
Correct, unless you used it for something else.
yeah, I mean, if we're going to put,
That'd be separate variance.
if we're going to put a requirement for the, for it to be removed, then there's no point in approving the carport. And she'll have no point in approving the carport.
Yeah, I don't think she'll want the carport.
Well, I recommend 90 days for her to remove the vehicle, within 90 days, as of today.
And the carport.
Yep.
And the carport.
Tony?
That motion?
Well, no, you just
That's the
recommend it, but
recommendation.
just trying to get everybody on the same page here.
Well, I think that's ample time, sure.
Okay.
I think it's
So-
reasonable.
So the first, I don't know how we do the motion, but
We don't accept the variance?
that we're not accepting the variance and she has 90 days to remove the vehicle and the structure.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, can I just ask for the architecture side, we would stop all our fines and everything until the 90 days, and then would it come back to us, or would it be a board thing after that?
That's an instruction from the board.
So it won't come back to us, correct? There's nothing more for us to do on this? That's it?
So we don't need to follow up with the 90 days, or do we need to?
Well, she would still be in violation if she doesn't do it.
But it's paused until the 90 days.
But it's paused until the 90 days.
So once 90 days comes up, us as an architectural, if it comes up again, we start with another letter.
Yes.
I would think that our communications director could send out a letter to her informing them that the 90 days started as of tomorrow.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say today, because you need to start off as the first work day, which is Monday.
Well, it's 90 days, it's not 90 work days.
Well,
90
I know
days.
that, but I'm saying like initiating on a Monday, saying it
Well,
for
yeah,
Monday.
yeah, we'll do it on Monday.
Okay, effective 90 days start on Monday morning, or at midnight, 12:01.
Okay.
Good.
Last item. Vote on a new board member. We have 2 candidates. First and last. Read these out, or, I mean, everybody's had a chance to read them.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
The two candidates are Sandy Hagan and Jason Long.
It's amusing, all right.
I want to point out that if this vacancy is filled today, it is only until the annual meeting in March. So there's approximately 7 months left. Myself and whoever's appointed today will be up for re-election at that time. So it's a very short period of time whomever's appointed.
Well, I guess if anybody wants to make a motion, do we want to discuss it any further?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll make a motion to appoint Jason Long to the board effective today.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Do we have to swear in?
Yes.
Memos of pro.
Wanda here?
Memos of pro.
I can read.
Oh, no.
I'll just repeat after you.
Because I already get it through. I was trying to figure that out.
With I, you say your name.
All right.
I,
I,
Jason Long,
Jason Long,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and support, that I will uphold
that I will uphold and support
the declarations of protective restrictions,
the declarations of protective restrictions,
bylaws and regulations
bylaws and regulations
governing the administration
governing the administration
of Fort Clark Springs.
of Fort Clark Springs.
I further swear
I further swear
that I will represent the interests
will represent the interests
of the membership
of the membership
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right.
All right.
Very good.
Let me do announcements. August 6th is National Root Beer Float Day at the Duck Inns. And that's the only, if anybody else has any other announcements?
Thank you. Stand by.
Lisa, I have an announcement.
Yes, ma'am?
Congratulations. Tomorrow morning, not tomorrow morning, Monday through Friday, Kinney County Arts Council is having a camp for kids. We're calling it the Can-Jo Camp, and it will be at the Episcopal Church from 9 to 12:30. And they do need to pre-register.
Okay.
And it's on flyers kind of out everywhere. The reason they need to pre-register is that we've constructed Can-Jos, and they're going to be learning to play Can-Jos. So if you have visitors, kids, grandkids, and you want to know what to do with them for a week, do that.
Thank you.
The only other announcement also is the spring is flowing, but I don't know that we're going to get much past the weekend, so we may lose the pool for a little while longer. Hopefully we'll get some more rain, or people stop pumping, just depending on what side of the fence you're on that one. And but it'll give us time to do a lot of, there's some major stuff the restoration committee is working on, so it's kind of a win if we have to let it go dry. So if you want to swim the next couple days. Thank you. We are adjourned to our executive session.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Whatever time. 11:42. Good to go. It's 2:54. We're back in the regular session. No actions are needed, except that we need to vote for Jason's.
Again.
Sorry, Jason. Do we have a motion?
Get it together.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jason Long to treasurer position on the board.
I second it.
All in favor? Unanimous?
Get back on now.
Passes. The only thing is there'll be a special meeting on August 4th. Details to follow. And the August board meeting is being moved to the 26th, which will be the fourth Saturday of August. And we are adjourned. It's weird to talk about, but.
You don't know.